my mother, she was a victim of COVID-19. She was a victim of neglect, and she was a victim of medical malpractice. So I took her to the hospital for having complications of COVID, and they immediately put her on a ventilator. He said it would only be for a few days. Shortly after that, when she was in the unit and on a vent, I called to see how she was doing. And they basically told me that when she was on a ventilator, that the chances of her coming out of a ventilator would be very, very poor. I do not work in a COVID unit. I don't have experience working in a COVID unit, so ventilators for me are still quite new. So the fact that they lied to us and said it would only be for a few days before she was on a ventilator, and then after she was on a ventilator, they said, well, chances of her coming out of it are very, very poor. In my mind as a nurse, I'm like, what do we do? Is there anything we can do? So I tried being in contact with her as much as possible through video camera, what they call. And within 1 week, they wanted her, they wanted to pull the plug. And I said no. Within 2 weeks, they told me that my mom said that she wanted them to pull the plug. And I really couldn't understand that. So I asked for a meeting. So we had a meeting through video webcam. There were so many red flags. And it was during that meeting that I explained to my mother in Spanish what the doctors had said. I said, Mom, they said that you want them to remove the ventilator. Your lungs are still not very strong, so if they do that, you most likely won't survive. So after I explained the situation to her, she then confirmed that she didn't want it removed. And it was at that time where she nodded her head that the physician pulled the camera up so that we could not see her. And I said, no, we all saw that, and we have witnesses here. Bring that down, please. She once again confirmed, and I said, let's see if we can get your power of attorney for healthcare documents activated. And so he did some testings on her. And shortly after that, I'm still not able to advocate for my mother. After this meeting, there were many false accusations. They said my mother didn't want to do any virtual visits with me, that she didn't want to do any virtual visits with the family or the pastor. So her visits were limited, and at times they were denied, and her condition deteriorated. Then after that, I received a call from a physician indicating that she had hours to live. And so they gave me 1 hour to go in and say my goodbyes. I asked if my pastor could go, and they said, no, he's not allowed to go. And I said, well, can we have a chaplain? And they said, yes. And I said, okay. So we go, and I'm there. As I got to the room, I confirmed with my mom. I said, Mom, do you want to go to heaven and be with God and his angels? Because I just need to know. That's what you want. I'm okay with that. And she looked at me and she nods her head no. And I said, well, wait, you're not ready to go. And she goes, no, she wasn't ready. And I said, well, they're telling me that you don't want to talk to me, that you don't want to have virtual visits with me. And she goes, no. And I said, well, you want to keep on fighting? And she said, yes. And I said, well, I'll keep on praying, and we're going to continue fighting, and we're going to continue doing this. And then immediately someone came and they said, your 20 minutes are up. And I said, well, I was given an hour. Where's the checklist? She said, call security. I said, well, I need my mom's bags. I need her keys. I got to move her car. I need her belongings. I didn't put up a fight at any point in time. The nurse gave me a bag, and I put her things in there, and they opened the door, and there's security with a wheelchair. And they said, well, what's the wheelchair for? And they said, well, you're contaminated. You touched her. Yes, I touched my mom. I sat near the edge of her bed. I held her hand. I I read a verse for her in the Bible. I did have a gown. I did have a mask. I did have gloves. And they wheeled me out of the hospital. I got to the house and got a call from a man who basically said that they were going to put me in a behavior contract for having contact with my mother, for touching her. And I said, well, they didn't communicate protocol. No one said I couldn't touch her. I mean, they should have told me that. And so I told them and I begged them. I said, please. I said, I want to be. So this behavior contract is where I couldn't have any contact with my mom for an additional 24 hours. And I said, well, she was given hours to live. Where you're telling me that I can't talk to my mom, that I can't see her. I mean, she's in, she's got very limited amount of time. And so basically, virtual visits were withheld because of that. And so the amount of emotional distress that they put me through, my mother through, has been torturous. They made false accusations towards me. And the staff there were cold, rude, and very dismissive of our concerns. They were very, very, very poor communication skills. And answers about my mother's care were very broad and very poor detail. I found that changes in her medications were made without my knowledge, that her primary meds to help her be alive were discontinued. I begged doctors to treat her with medications and I begged them to care for her. They refused. Reporting to patient regulations department made things so much worse. Their group of medical professionals, lawyers, they came up with a legal way to pull the plug. So then I realized I was fighting alone when I asked one of the physicians if he wanted my mother to live. She wanted my mother to live, and basically she didn't even respond. And I said, do you want my mom to live? Can you treat her with steroids? Give her antibiotics, give her medications, things that'll help her, breathe, so we can wean her off the vent and bring her home. She said no. And I said, do you want her to live? She hung up the phone on me. I realized that my fight was in vain and over after another doctor confirmed that there were patients just like my mother that could have been treated with medications to help them survive, but because their diagnosis was COVID-related pneumonia or COVID-related lung injury, treatment is not indicated. Treatment is not given, and they are dying. My mother was isolated from her family on many occasions. She was afraid of hospital staff and suffered tremendously for many weeks while inpatient. They failed to treat her appropriately, and as a result of that, she is with the Lord. So I'm here to support this group of women because I believe them. And my mother's death was not COVID related.
Hi everyone, my name is Nicole Sirotek. I'm one of the New York whistleblowers. I had a video that went viral as I went and I begged for the life of my patient. I needed help to save them. And I'm going to be quick because we get censored really quickly if I'm on camera for anything. So I want to tell you a little bit about what happened in New York. So they kicked me off that unit and took that patient away from me because I refused to hang an experimental drug that I knew was killing the other patients. And they said, if you don't do it, we'll get rid of you and we'll find another nurse who will. And I said, then get rid of me, I'm not doing it. So they moved me, and in the process, the patient ended up getting the drug and he eventually died. And that is why I got kicked out of New York. These hospitals, there's a reason they're locking you out of these hospitals. And we all just keep going along with the party line, and we need to say it's stopped. Aaron and I, we've tried for a year to get this up and off the ground. You heard Olga's story, how they just made her mom a DNR and then she didn't behave, so they locked her away. This is happening all over the country. It's not just New York. It's not just Texas. So if they tell you that you can't see your loved one in that hospital, yet all of us nurses and doctors and healthcare professionals can leave that hospital and go to the gym and go to the grocery store, and we can go to our children's activities, but you can't see your loved one, there's a reason for that, and you need to start saying that's not okay. I've seen loved ones arrested for trying to see their family member in the hospital. I mean, I had one dying patient. I said, sir, you're probably not going to make it. They're going to want to put you on a ventilator. And he said, well, then I want to see my family. I'm like, they won't let him in. They won't let you see see your family. He's like, I want to see them before I die. And I said, sir, I can hook you up to a tank of oxygen. You'll have about 15 minutes, 10 maybe, if the elevator's fast. He's like, then take me out there to see my family. So I called the family. I said, how fast can you get to this hospital? Meet me by the trash compactor next to the freezer truck, and I can bring your dad down. But he's only going to have a couple minutes because he's going to run out of oxygen. And I won't be able to save him. And so I wheeled that man down there to the trash compactor next to the freezer truck, and his family was there, and they said goodbye, and he died in about 8 minutes. They had 8 minutes with him, and that's where he died, in a wheelchair next to the trash can. Okay? And this is not okay. And I know a lot of people think it's, because I said, it was a black patient, or it was a little Hispanic lady. It's not just the minorities. It's not just the lower socioeconomic classes. It's everyone. I work with a nurse named Lori Jean for United States for Medical Freedom, and we advocate for people who just get a hold of us and say, I need help with my loved one. They're not listening to me. They locked him away. They won't even give him antibiotics. They're not even giving him pain medicine. And we advocate for these patients, and we get strangers from across the country, and we advocate for them, and we fight for them, and all we're told is no. No, we will not make you a full code. No, we will not give you the antibiotic even though you're going septic. No, we will not give you pain medicine even though we know that you're in pain. There is a reason they are locking you out of these hospitals. I mean, come on guys, we can send people into outer space, but we can't get technology for you to see your loved one in the hospital? We're the richest, most powerful country in the world, and we can't get the family in to see their loved ones before they die? Isn't that a little suspicious? So folks, thank you so much for your time. I don't want to hold up the line. These are the Global Frontline nurses. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Good job, ladies.
Cool. Thank you.
Good job.
So much. Yeah.